Martin, executive life coach strategist. I'm also the host of Take the Limits Off, which is really dedicated to exploring personal growth, overcoming challenges, and pushing boundaries beyond what people believe is possible. And I'm so excited that you are here today and that you've decided to join us. And with me, I have the Howard H. White. But before we really introduce him, let me just read a little bit about his bio. Howard H. White has been a guiding force for the Jordan brand since its inception, shaping the business into what it is today and doing it by seeing possibilities where others deemed impossible. And today, the beloved 45-year Nike Inc. veteran and founding father of the Jordan brand currently is the vice president of Jordan Brand Affairs, where he continues to serve as a mentor and as an inspirational thought leader. If you want to know more about Howard H. White, go ahead and click on the link in this podcast. But for now, please help me in welcoming Howard H. White. Welcome, Howard.
Hello, Mary Morton. How are you?
Fabulous. Thank you. How are you doing?
Life is a pretty good deal, Mary. I cannot complain.
I agree. I want to say, and thank you. Thank you for saying yes. Marshawn Evans Daniels, she says, yes, she has an acronym for everything, and it's so powerful. Your experience shifts. Yes, that's her acronym for the word yes. And I believe that life gives us opportunities every day, Howard, to say yes. Yes to something.
I believe you. I think. No, I mean, I know that's right. And I think that a great life coach once said that it's all a choice.
Right. It is. It is a choice. And when I think about choices, I read your book. If you all don't have a copy of this book, Believe to Achieve, See the Invisible, Do the Impossible, get it. Order it today, because I believe it will change your life. It will inspire you. There's so many inspiring stories in this book. And as I was reading this book, Howard, I was thinking about Dr. Miles Monroe. And he said there are 5 important questions every human being needs to ask themselves. And the questions are, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Where did I come from? Why am I here? What can I do? And where am I going? And so I want to pose those questions to you today. And I think that will help people get to know you a little bit better. But who am I? Who is Howard White? Who's Howard White?
I think Howard White, as in so many, many, many people, the complexities, everybody sees themselves as this or that, but in essence, most people are pretty complex. And it's the ability to be able to break that down into simple explanations. It's those that can do that and those that can't. I think Howard White is a little boy from Hampton, Virginia, that has never stopped believing in the possibilities in life. And just about most of the things that I have been able to do really resonated around someone saying that was possible. And that just wasn't this, oh my God, okay, I can do that. Now, the effort that I put into making those things come true is, I think, the essence of who is Howard White.
Wow. Sometimes I love what you said, we are complex. And what I've known and what I've discovered and learned, and I've done this myself, but I've learned better to do better. But when you're networking and you're out and about and people say, hey, tell me about yourself, the first thing we do is we talk about what we do. We've confused the roles, right? We talk about what we do versus who am I? And so I appreciate the fact that you didn't say, well, I'm such and such and I do this, this, and this, but you understand the essence of the man. And that's powerful. So then tell me, go ahead.
I mean, to, from my perspective, to get caught up in some fantasy of this, oh, I'm this and I'm this and this is my title and that, okay. Yeah, and you and billions and billions of others, which ultimately really has nothing to do with who you are. Maybe what you do, but if that becomes who you are, then I think that there's a little trouble.
Absolutely. And I think about your story in your book, which you talk about the coach who believed in you and said that you could be the next big O, right? Oscar Robinson, if I'm not mistaken. And you believe that. You were a great, phenomenal basketball player. But then when you had the knee injury and it ended that part of your career, imagine if you had allowed that part of your life to define who you are, meaning like, oh, I was the basketball player, now you're not a basketball player. So sometimes I think what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we will allow our titles or the things that we do to define us, versus, that's a part of what I do to help impact somebody else. But sometimes, what if you're not that anymore? Then who are you? So it's kind of like pulling the layers back, Okay, I'm not the basketball player. I'm not the coach. I'm not the who. So who are you really? Who's the person underneath? And so that's where I think we need to sometimes just pause and reflect about who am I really? Not the title, not what I do, but the inner man, the inner woman, the inner person.
I think people often they struggle with that because so many people that's what they look at. They look at the glamour of, oh my goodness, you got X. Oh, look what you've done. You've done Y and Z and oh my goodness. And people say, man, one day I hope to be like you. And I say, well, why would you stop there? You can go so much further than that.
Yeah.
And so I want people to be open enough to who they can be. And then somebody might say, if I could be you, I said, you could, but you could be better. Now, let me ask you this. Are you willing to go through all the things that I've had to go through
Right.
to become whatever it is I am today? And that's the part. Are you willing to commit to the sacrifices? Are you willing to live through the disappointments? Because they come with all of those things.
Yeah. It didn't happen overnight. You had to walk through some things, you had to sacrifice some things. And sometimes people aren't willing to pay the price. When you say that, I think about that next question, where did I come from? And I know you were born in Virginia, right? And tell us a little bit about your early years.
And when I look at my early years, I know, of course, I didn't know then, but I was born a preemie. I was a premature baby. Bad asthma, very little. So one might say in 1950, what's the chances of that little baby being here? And I remember when I started playing sports, Mama said, well, you've been having any trouble breathing? How's your breathing coming? And you had asthma so badly. And I said, no, I think I'm fine. But that little boy who, when I lived in the best neighborhood, my girlfriends, Jackie and Pinky, and we would roller skate, we would play hopscotch, and we jumping jacks and jump rope. And I mean, we just had a ball. And I remember when I had to leave, because my dad was gone and we had nowhere to go. So we moved out into, I say, the middle of the woods, but it was this little farmhouse in kind of like woods on one side, but that way you could walk out for however far that was and catch the bus to go across town. On the other side of the woods, basically it was an all-white area. And they said, I never saw it, but some friends said there was a sign down there that said, if you're here when the sun goes down, you won't see it come up. So you just didn't go down that side of the woods. Now, probably as a young person, the thing that you would think was the most difficult part would be leaving all of your friends, moving out into the woods, because my aunt's husband had just died and she lived by herself, but back on this little quasi little farm, which I would say a lot of people would think was difficult. But some friends came by one day, Carlton Mann and Terry Prescott, and they said, hey, they let you play basketball down at that new school, which was on the other side where all the white folks stayed. And I didn't know it, but that was right at the beginning of integration. And they were two of the first ones that integrated that new high school. So Mom said, you can go, y'all just get back before it's dark. So we rode our bicycles down there. We walked in, there were no kids in that gym playing. 3 men, 3 white men. And for me, I'm like, man, we don't belong in here. And as we're getting ready to leave, one of the men says, hey, you boys, you want to play a game? You young. Oh, they old people. You can beat them. Now, I couldn't play basketball. I don't think Carlton and Terry were that good at playing basketball. And plus, whenever I did play basketball, wherever you got the ball, you could shoot it. These people changed the rules. You had to take it back behind the line. That day changed the course of my life. So from the worst thing that could possibly happen to changing the course of your life. He told me if I would listen, I could be just like the Big O. I didn't know any difference. I know I wanted the Big O, but I did cut some trees down. I lived in the woods. I took them home. I dug some holes. I went and found some soda bottles in the ditches, and I went and cashed them in, and I went to Western Order and bought me a basketball goal and a basketball. Nailed some plywood up, nailed that in, and I shot lots of basketballs. So that, then I actually went to, in the 9th grade of junior high, that was still junior high then, to this new school, which was far closer to my house than the school all the way across town, which was all black. I got to that school and there was 3 black kids. I didn't know either of them, so it was like me. But I got to play on the basketball team. They weren't any good, I wasn't any good, so I got to play. There was an English teacher, Nancy Newstep, and I still talk to Nancy today. Talked to her yesterday, matter of fact. We have a book club that we read books together. And I remember Nancy said, you are a great writer. I take your papers home and I read them to my mother every night. So when I wanted to write a book, and they said, oh, great idea. You need a writer and a ghostwriter and this. Well, Nancy told me I was a great writer. So I wrote a book. I talked to that coach just the other day. So these are people that believed in me. In most things, really all you have to do is follow your yellow brick road. People say, H, what do you think your advantage has been in life? I said, none, but I follow directions extraordinarily well. So my early years were like many people of color, and just many people. Broken home, the possibilities of what can't happen. Well, you can't do this, and you aren't good enough to do that. And there are just a few people that said, if you listen. And I can tell you when I got to college, there was only one letter that was on the back of my uniform, which was H in quotations. I can tell you the day that gym that I walked into and couldn't play a lick of basketball is the Howard White Court. I can tell you the day that little drive lane that gym sits on is Howard White Way. I can tell you that all of us, see, this is what people forget, Murray. We, as a human species, we can be extraordinarily cruel, and we can be extraordinarily loving. But what we have here has put men and women into outer space, landed on Mars, have taken us to the depths of the deepest ocean, have written plays and movies and books and built automobiles. And I mean, that human mind is so powerful.
Yeah.
But many don't use it for their betterment. Use it as their demise. It was one of the guys that took me to that school, Terry. I just read a little thing that he had written me. And he said, I told my wife, Chris, Howard White was either the most naive person that I ever met in high school, or the most optimistic person that I've ever met in high school. That same school that had probably about 30 blacks in the graduating class of 540. I became senior class president. That little school with 3 black kids in it in that junior high, I was voted the most popular boy in school. And I would submit that when my mother, at about 9 or 10, walking down the road, and we passed by Mr. Lee and down south, hey Lee, I Miss Liv, you have a good day, you here? You too, Miss Liv. Now Mr. Lee had this huge limp. He was throwing 50 times a day, but Howard was throwing rocks at the stop sign. When we got by Mr. Lee, she stopped me. And she said, you let that be the last time in your life that you ever walk by someone and not open your mouth to speak. Because even a dog can wag its tail when it passes you on the street. Mm-hmm. As a little person, I didn't speak like this, Murray. When I got to college, I was in this leadership class, Leadership 420, I believe. Dr. Leedy was the professor. She asked me to stay after class one day, dear. Now, I thought that maybe I didn't turn a paper in or something, and I said, I turned all my work in. She said, what do you want from this class? I said, oh, okay, if you're giving them out, I would. She said, hey, I could always say, no, you should want to learn. She said, I've only known 2 people in my life that could have the ability to hold the attention of an entire class when they spoke. The first one I knew up at Temple. He's a movie star now. But he's from the city. When he speaks, Everybody understands him. Howard White is from the South. He has this Southern dialect and this Southern this. And when you speak, I don't know what you're saying half the time. She wrote her name down. She said, call her and tell her I told you to call. I didn't call her for a while because I was like, who does she think she is? I don't understand what she's saying either. But eventually I did call. Ask, ask, how to enunciate and pronunciate the King's English. I remember I took Dr. Leedy to lunch when I graduated that senior year to say thank you. After I wrote my book, I happened to find Dr. Leedy, and she was an adjunct professor at Georgia. Someone had her number from Maryland. I kept calling, never got anybody. Finally, I got her one day. I said, Dr. Leedy? She said, yes, this is Charlotte. I said, Dr. Leedy? She said, yes, who am I speaking with? Is this Eddie? I said, no, man. I said, you said there were two. She said, Howard White. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, Howard White, I was just talking to a group of students about you just the other day. I said, Dr. Leedy, it's been 35 years since you've seen me. You were not talking to a group of students just the other day. She said, I was. Tell me what you're doing. And after I told her, she said, I told you so. I said, who are you? You an angel? She said, simply your teacher. And we stayed in contact. And she ever only wanted me to do one thing. My wife and I, Madonna and I, went to her 80th birthday party. And all of these people walked up. You must be Howard. I said, yes. You know, you're Charlotte's favorite. I said, no, I owe her so much. She said, no, she thanks the world of you. I said, no, I just owe her so much. They said, you didn't have to listen. So again, these things that change your life. And if one has the ability to look far enough into their life and deep enough into the ocean of their soul, they can find out just who they are. Those instances changed the course of my life. And I stayed with Charlotte and talked to her until the day she died. In fact, her niece called me and said, Aunt Charlotte wanted me to tell you how much you meant to her. When hard times have come, and inevitably they will, you must ask yourself, Murray, are they hard times or are they the test of your faith?
Yes.
See, everybody believes in something right until everything goes wrong. Then why have he forsaken me? And you say, why? Maybe you have forsaken your beliefs. Because at some place, not to get into any religious documentation, but it says, and I don't care if you're talking about the Quran, the Bible, Buddhism, that the kingdom is within. So if that is your belief, and you live to that purpose, what can't you do? There have been many that have come after me, but I believe that in the end, he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. So people come after you. I'm supposed to hold that against them? That's their prerogative. but it's my prerogative to still be who I am.
Wow. Well, that's all for now. Don't forget to tune in to our next episode where we will conclude our conversation with the Howard H. White. So until then, be well.